if not our first.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of this is our whole team from Manipur. I think you may have got introduced to what we do and uh, our work
Yes,
across the
yes,
length
yes.
and width of Manipur.
I was going through your website and listening to your promo talk here, and it's very impressive.
Yes, I can share with you that I have stayed in Lamphel for more than 4 years, and of
Yes,
course been coming there. So you could say that the past at least 8 years I've been coming to Manipur.
yes. You were staying at Lamphel.
Lamphel, I was posted in the Border Roads Organization.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right. So,
I'm
Dr.
from Thangmaiban,
Oh,
just
Thangnaiban.
very near to Lamphel. Yeah, Thangmaiban.
Okay. So
Near. Yes, sir.
all these 25 all faces that you see on the list, most of them are in different parts of Manipur, uh,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
all at different locations there. So, Doctor, I'll hand you over to our team member, Sanjam. She will say a few words about you to introduce you
Okay,
to
sir.
everybody.
Okay, sir.
Hello, Ja.
I'm not.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Hello.
Henna. I'm also a Sunbird member. I'm working in a place called Puichi, few hours away from None.
Oh, great, great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second seminar of the weekly seminar series. Today, I'm extremely honored to introduce our today's subject expert, Dr. Usham Rojio Khurumjari Oja. Dr. Usham Rojio will be speaking to us on the topic Understanding Indigenous Arts and Knowledge System of Northeast India. Dr. Usham Rojio, he currently teaches English literature at the University of Karnataka. He's a former postdoctoral fellow of ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research from Jawaharlal Nehru University. During his fellowship, he taught 2 courses on indigenous aesthetics for MA students and comparative aesthetics for MPhil students, all with reference to the Northeast India. He received his MPhil and PhD from the Theatre and Performance Studies School of Arts and Aesthetics from JNU itself. Dr. Rojio's area of interest are indigenous literature of the Northeast India, theatre and performance studies, popular culture, and theatre in education. He is the co-author of the upcoming book, The Way of Thamoy, Life and Art of Haisam Sabitri. Thamoy means Manipuri. Thamoy means English. In English, it's called heart. The Way of Thamoy Life and the Heart, The Way of Heart. It's a beautiful name. It's written with Professor H.S. Shivaprakash and another forthcoming book called Playing with the Gods. This book is based on a festival called Lai Harauba of Manipur. Now, Lai Harauba is a festival where we witness cultural and artistic traditions of Manipur. Many of us here who have spent our childhood in Manipur have taken some part in the festival, performing Manipuri dance or travel dance, etc. Oja Rojio is also a playwright and theatre director. With late Kanhelal and Sabitri as their assistant, he was part of a community building project through theatre called the Nature Lore. It was conducted in different parts of India, especially in the northeast part of India. He recently, his recent play called Pan Thaba. So Pan is the yam that we get here. Thaba is planting. It's a very popular folk tale which we all grew up listening to. It was a play that he directed based on the Manipuri folktale, and it received many reviews and critical appreciations in Manipur. He's also a poet who writes poems in Manipuri and English language. Now, without further ado, I'll call upon Dr. Usham Roji on the stage. Over to you, Oja.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hannah, uh, actually, I wanted to share PPT, but I have not been able to log in from my laptop. So there is some problem from, you know, signing in from my laptop. Anyway, I'll speak in a very, conversational tone, language. So first, let's try to understand what is indigenous people and indigenous communities. I was, before speaking, on my topic, I was listening to Colonel Christopher Rego, who's the founder of Sunbird Trust, and I was going through the website, the web page of Sunbird Trust, and I was so impressed by the idea of peace through education, and uh, Colonel Christopher Rego's emphasis on understanding the root. Understanding the root is very important. It's very connected with my talk today, because understanding the root is very important, and also respecting other cultures that should be the motto of education. Peace through education, which I also believe and I agree with Colonel Christopher Rego. So when I say indigenous aesthetics and indigenous people, indigenous communities, indigenous arts, studying indigenous arts and indigenous aesthetics should be from the ground. So first we must try and understand our own community, our own knowledge systems, okay? Not imposed by Western education, not imposed by the other knowledge systems, okay? So my whole research and is on developing a knowledge system, developing, modernizing our indigenous knowledge systems. That has been my research for the last 8-9 years during my PhD and postdoctoral fellow, and I've always been emphasizing that we must modernize our own knowledge systems. And all knowledge systems, when we talk about our own knowledge systems, it is it also concern about time, it also concern about identity, it also concern about knowledge, sustainability, and language. So let us try to understand what is indigenous people. Okay, so I'm quoting 2004, UN definitions of indigenous people. So I quote, indigenous communities, peoples, and nations are those which, having a historical continuity with pre-invasion and pre-colonial societies that have developed on their territories, considering themselves distinct from other sectors of the societies now prevailing in those territories or parts of them. They form at present non-dominant sectors of society and are determined to preserve, develop, and transmit to future generations their ancestral territories and their ethnic identity as the basis of their continued existence as peoples in accordance with their own cultural patterns, social institutions, and also legal systems. So this is the UN, definitions of indigenous people. It's a new definitions. There are many other definitions which United Nations had given earlier, but this is the latest, definitions that we have. Now, what is indigeneity? The primary characteristics of indigeneity is an enduring relationship between people, populations, their territories, and their natural environment and landscape. Okay, and the key elements here is the ecological context for human endeavors. Okay, ecological context for human survival. Okay, and their way of life. Okay, their worldview. So everything comes in, in the idea of indigeneity. So indigeneity is a kind of idea that there is an enduring relationship between populations, peoples, their territories, and the natural. And some of the secondary characteristics, okay, characteristics derived from the relationship with environment is the relationship. The relationship endures over centuries. Okay, the indigenous peoples have have a relation with the landscape, with the environment that has endured over centuries, and the relationship is celebrated. The relationship is celebrated in customs and group directions. That is what we call the formation of identity. And the relationship, gives rise to a system of knowledge, to a system of knowledge, to a distinctive methodologies and an environmental ethic that we call it knowledge. Okay, so we have every indigenous people, every indigenous communities have a different kind of knowledge systems where they also develop over the ages, okay, over the centuries. They also develop a relationship, that facilitates balanced economic growth, what we call it sustainability, and that also is followed by the relationship that contributes to the evolution and use of a unique language. And here, language can be the verbal, the non-verbal, language that communicates with the nature, the non-verbal language that communicates with the environment, etc. and etc. So, what is then indigenous knowledge? To me, the relationship between people and the environment, therefore, forms an important foundation for the organization of indigenous knowledge. So how do we organize indigenous knowledge is one important question which will be discussed in this talk. So the relationship between the people and the environment therefore forms an important foundation for the organization of indigenous knowledge and the categorization of life experiences and the shaping of attitudes and peculiar patterns of thinking. All these are important in creating our own traditional arts. Okay, and all these are important in creating and understanding our own indigenous art and aesthetics. So indigenous knowledge sometimes includes facts, concepts, and theories. When we say theories, it's not this jargon of Western jargons. When I say theories, okay, it is not the Western jargons. The theories mean the concepts, the understandings of the indigenous people. Okay, so in this indigenous knowledge includes all these concepts, which may be there in our subconscious mind, not very conscious about our own knowledge, about the characteristics which describe, the theories are about the characteristics which describes our objects, our events, our festivals, our behaviors, and interconnections that comprise both animate and inanimate, environments surrounding indigenous peoples. So both animate and inanimate, surroundings, environments, So how is indigenous knowledge formed? Indigenous knowledge is formed in different ways. Okay, the relationship between people, environment, and landscape forms a vital foundation for organization of indigenous knowledge. Okay, and the second, categorizations of life experiences and shaping of attitudes and patterns of thinking. So over the ages, the relationship between people, environment, and landscape. So landscape is very important. Now I'll give some examples how landscape is important, okay, before we discuss this indigenous arts and aesthetics. Now, just imagine that, Manipuri dance, the Lai Harapa dance, or say the Ras Leela of Manipur. The Ras Leela of Manipur, the Manipuri dance, and compare and contrast with the Kathakali or Kathakali or Odissi or other Bharatanatyam. Okay, how do you see that? In Kathakali, you will see a very violent kind of eyes and then body trembling and then a very violent kind of expression. Okay, whereas in Manipuri dance, you will see a very serene, calm, subdued eloquence. Okay, a very calm and serenity. Okay, and I say this that why in Manipuri dance there is no Tandap element. Okay, there is very less Tandap element. It's Lasya. Well, Lasya is very cold. What we call in Natya Shastra, Lasya is very serene, calm. Okay, and very subdued eloquence. Okay, whereas Tandap is very violent, vibrant, and So I argue that this is because of the landscape. Okay, whereas in Kathakali you see the expressions, the expressions of the sea, roaring sea. Okay, the expressions of the roaring sea, the sea waves. Okay, and in Manipur we don't see that kind of violent, nature's violence. Okay, so our landscapes, our serene hill, okay, our serene nature, environment, our landscape, okay, is reflected in our dance. So our dance are very slow, subtle, serene, okay, very calm, okay. So you see that what I'm trying to say is that landscape and art, landscape and dance, or any kind of dance, has a very intimate relations. The environment and the dance has a very intimate relations. So you have to start thinking with this. When we theorize, what we do is in our education systems, we quote somewhere from America, Grotowski, Eugenio Barba, this, okay. And we study our dance, quoting American scholars who have not seen, Manipuri dance. And we quote many other texts, but that kind of, research, that kind of education, I think we should, change it. We should change, and we should start looking our own indigenous environment, our own indigenous system of knowledge, and study our art form. That is what my concern is, and that's what Colonel Christopher Rego has also emphasized in the promote talk of this Sunbird Trust that I have listened yesterday from your webpage. So now the importance is understanding our root, understanding our environment, and so what are the basis for indigenous knowledge? Okay, so let us go back to some academic kind of study, but I'll make it simple and easy for you. According to the celebrated North American, indigenous scholar Vine Deloria, in his book called Red Art, White Lies, Native Americans and the Myth of Scientific Fact, which was published in 1995. Yes, someone was asking questions.
All questions will come at the end. We will please carry on. We are gathering the questions, and at the end we will give them to you, the selected questions, so that you can answer, sir.
Okay, sir. So, so in this book by Vine Deloria, I would have loved if I could have shared the PPT. He wrote, most tribes were very reluctant to surrender their homelands to the whites because they knew that their ancestors were still spiritually alive on the land. Okay, I think this is also true for many communities in Northeast India, because we are very reluctant to leave our land. We are very reluctant to surrender our homeland because we believe that our ancestors are still spiritually alive on the land. So this comment foregrounds the link between the physical and social environments, but also emphasize the significance of resources as collective and intergenerational, and the importance of land for health, for well-being, and for community. So this is the basis of our indigenous knowledge. Okay, so the basis of our indigenous knowledge is developed through the relationships from a very substrate for indigenous knowledge. Our indigenous knowledge draws on observations from the natural environment and is imbued with a life force and a spirituality. Okay, so three features of indigenous knowledge indigenous knowledge are a product of a dynamic system, and indigenous knowledge are an integral part of the physical and social environment of our communities. And indigenous knowledge, what is important is that indigenous knowledge strives at a collective good. So we have to understand these indigenous knowledge systems. Okay, for every community, I'll give specific examples from my own community, from the Meitei community later on. So traditional artistic indigenous, it comes to indigenous knowledge and indigenous arts and aesthetics are very much related. Our traditional arts comes from our own indigenous knowledge, our belief systems, okay, our ways of life. Okay, so traditional artistic expression is interconnected with our own worldview. Our worldview, when I say our worldview, it's our indigenous knowledge systems. And that our aesthetic experiences shape our collective identity. So aesthetic system is linked with indigenous knowledge system, and our everyday aesthetic expressions strengthen and enhance our group identity. So like indigenous identity, indigenous aesthetics is sometimes both political and it's a cultural process. What our search says, it's a work in progress. Okay, interconnected with its own local and environment and landscape. So today, as a scholar of art and literature, I find very problematic what has been defined as art in Western theory does not hold true for many indigenous communities in Northeast India. Okay, and this illustrates the problem of our scholars, the problem of our Western educations, and insisting upon global theories and generalizing from one culture to another. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is we need to rethink how a culture conceptualizes art. Okay, and let's think about our Zoom cultivations. Okay, Zoom cultivations, the landscape making of this Zoom cultivation landscape, how beautifully in the hills, in many parts of the hills of Northeast, how beautifully they are made. This is our expressions. This is our expressions of art. This is our expressions of aesthetics. And that Zoom cultivations making of this landscape has many knowledge with connected with our environment. It has a relationship with our environment. It has a relationship with how the water systems will be maintained. Okay, how the water systems will be maintained in the landscape. And it is very much, it comes out from understanding the landscape, understanding the environment. Okay, and this knowledge system is what we need to understand and we need to learn. And it has connection with our sustainability. It has connection with our time. It has connection with our spiritual belief, our way of thinking, our worldview. Okay, so for example, let's see our Lai Harauba in Manipur. Lai Harauba is a ritual festivals, the Lai Harauba Manipur, and it's celebrated mostly by the Meitei and some Chakpa community. Okay, Chakpa community is also considered as Meitei, part of Meitei, and Lai Harauba. See, the Lai Harauba of Manipur. There is a book written by Saros Nalini Parat Arambam, and Arambam Saros Nalini Parat translated the Lai Harauba of Manipur as, the pleasing of the gods. Okay, the pleasing of the gods. And I disagree. Recently, I published an article just before Corona in 2019. I published an article at Pradeep Panjabon's, when Pradeep Panjabon was the editor of the Imphal Free Press. So I published an article saying that, yes, the book by Saros Nalini Parat, the Lai Harauba of Manipur, the pleasing of the god Lai Harauba of Manipur, is a very useful book. But the translations of Lai Harauba is, I said, wrong. The translation, because Saros Nalini Parat, he went to America and she went to America. She studied theology and she converted into Christians and she married an English man. Okay, and the Lai Harauba of Manipur, when you translate Lai Harauba as the pleasing of the god, you are translating it from the Judo-Christian concept. Okay, from the Judo-Christian concept. Okay, now what I'm trying to say is that our indigenous knowledge system is different. Okay, our indigenous knowledge is different because when we see Lai Harauba is calling our forefathers, or calling the spirit of our forefathers from the water bodies, and celebrating and dancing for 7 days or 10 or 11 days, and then sending off the spirit again, okay, symbolically in the water bodies again. So we are celebrating with the gods. Okay, when we say the pleasing of the gods, the god is somewhere there and we are worshiping. But here we are celebrating with the god. We are rejoicing. Harauba means rejoicing, merrymaking with the gods. So the word of, the preposition of is wrong here. So it should be with. Okay, so translation should come from our own concept, from our own understanding, from our own indigenous knowledge. Okay, so the Judo-Christian concept of God and our indigenous concept of gods are totally different. So the translation should be like rejoicing with the gods, merrymaking with the gods. Okay, so it is this, very important thing, very important, assertion that we have not been able to understand. We are sidelining. We have been sidelining our indigenous form of knowledge, and it is important that we understand the indigenous form of knowledge because it has connections with our nature, it has connection with our environment, and through understanding the indigenous form of knowledge, then we may develop a love for our own environment, for our own nature. This is one important thing that I want to share today. I want to share some pictures, but and analyze it, but I don't know why I'm not able to connect this laptop.
Dr.
Let
Roju,
me
if you
try.
would like to send me the files, maybe I can share it from my computer.
Okay, I'll do that. Just give me a minute. Okay, that's a good idea. I can share you on your WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's fine, Dr. Roju.
Sorry for this. I was trying to connect. In between, I can take some questions.
Doctor, one issue comes in Manipur, which is, even for people living in Manipur, which is quite difficult, is there are more than 30 indigenous, communities with their respective languages, way of life, culture, and everything. And they have got their
Yes, sir.
own customs and traditions, which have come across centuries.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes these customs
Yes, sir.
and traditions conflict with the neighboring communities. That intersection is not pleasant
Yes, sir.
at times. So we are people are
Yes.
trying to work and to smoothen all those edges, whether within Manipur or between people here and rest of the country. So when you have such sort of idea, things that may conflict slightly or whatever, what do you suggest is the way forward?
Yes. I think if we go deeper and understand the knowledge systems, maybe there is a difference in the expressions. There is a difference in the expressions of color, expressions of language. But if we see the core values, I think there are similarities in the core values. So that similarity is what we must try to find out. Similarity in the system of knowledge, and we are not able to do that. We are, so this whole Western educations, I think I'm not blaming Western educations, which have taught us to rationalize, conceptualize, to scientifically study things. But with the help of that, it's now important that we look deeper and try to find the core values, the similar core values, the shared core values. That's what I have always looked for. And that's what I have been teaching when I was teaching indigenous aesthetics in JNU.
So very happy, because that is exactly at the core of Sunbird Trust. I keep telling my team members also that we look with all communities as what unites, not what divides. So, which is why we've had Kuki children coming and studying in our Naga school, when even the same villages had people had killed each other barely less than 20 years ago. So that is at the core of what we do, that we keep relentlessly searching for the humanistic common denominator of everybody, and try to do our work that way. Thank you for that point.
Yes.
Dr. Roju, there's a question from Niveta. She would like to know more about the Chaptak community that you mentioned just now.
Chappa community are Chappa, they are part of the Meitei. but there are Chakpa, there are, there are outcast Meitei community. Okay, there are outcast community of Meitei, and they are also known as Loi. Loi means outcast, and actually they are outcast for several reasons over a historical point, and they are outcast when the Meitei adopted Hindu, and these are communities who resist that they will not convert into Hinduism and all, and they are outcast. Now most of the Chakpa have converted into Hindu and all. So Chakpa community, we have Chakpa community, Sekmai, okay, Fayeng, Andro, okay, and then Laimaram and Kakshin and all. They are part of the Chakpa community. They are Meitei. They are part of the Meitei, but they are Meitei.
So basically, you could say it amounts to a sort of a caste where they're treated, to put it very crudely, that they are sort of felt to be of a little lower caste than there may be people in Imphal and whatever, like the people in Andhra and the people in. So, is intermarriage there, or is it still a bit of a division?
Intermarriage is practiced. Intermarriage is practiced. Now, there was a kind of outcast in the sense there was no caste system like in other part of India, but there are outcasts to stay away from the Kangla, okay, from the Kangla, from Imphal. That's the thing. But intermarriage happens. Intermarriage happens with Loi and other Meiteis.
I also have a follow-up question to that. So you mentioned that they do not follow Hinduism. So is there any particular religion that they follow, or?
Before that, can I just jump in?
They follow. Yes.
Yeah. Even to the team, I'd like the team to know. Please correct me, Dr. Asham, that Manipur is perhaps the only place in the world where an entire population has been converted to Hinduism. And I think it happened during the time of the king who was called Garib Nawaz around the year 1715. And so I think you can give a little bit of that story of how this Manipur became the only place where the entire community got converted. Okay, little bit of
Yes.
yeah. So
Sorry, I'm so.
Dr. Sham, I was telling them, I request you to give this background that
Yes.
how the population of Manipuris, which were all which one? Sorry, there's a bit of disturbance. Somebody's, yeah. They were all the Sanamahis before, and how they got converted to Hinduism around 1715 during the time of Garib Nawaz. Could you just explain that to our team, because
Yes.
I think many may not be knowing that.
Yes. I am not a very good historian, but whatever I remember, I'll share. It was in 1715, around 1714, from 1712 to 1715, that this Garibuni was, under the guidance of his, his guide, Shantidas Goswami. Okay, so there is also a history that before that there was, before Garibuna was converted, there are many theories, I would say, that before Pamhiba forcefully asked all the Meitei, the entire Meitei, to convert into Hinduism, there are many populations who have went to Bengal, who have connected with Assam and all. Many Meitei were already in love of Hinduism, in love of not this Vaishnavisms. Okay, so but people who are in Manipur who have not gone out of Manipur, okay, so they are still following the indigenous worshipping of Sanamahi and all. And then it was like to them, when this king ordered that they all should be converted into Vaishnavism or Hinduism. I was also told that by a historian, it was not Vaishnavism which came first there. It was Ramanandikal. Ramanandikal was not accepted by the people of Manipur, and then later on they converted it to Vaishnavisms. So I'm not very much into this history, but there has been a transformations. There has been a transformations in many art form also. Okay, so when I say, for example, the Ras Lila of Manipur, the Ras Lila of Manipur is the content is Vaishnavism. The content is the story of love of Krishna and Radha, but the form, the expressions is very much an indigenous expressions. And the structure of Ras Lila, if you see the structure of Ras Lila, it is same format of Lai Harawa. That's why I say the Lai Harawa should be translated as rejoicing with the God, merrymaking with the God. Well, when I use the preposition with, it has a meaning there. Because when you see Ras Lila, unlike the Ras Lila in Mathura, or unlike the Ras Lila in any northern India or any part of India, the Manipuri Ras Lila at Govindaji is very different. Okay, because when you start at the beginning of the Ras Lila, you will see that Krishna, the idols of Krishna and Radha are brought out in the middle of the mandap, in the middle of the performance space. And then they will swim, okay, and then they will dance with the gopis and the Krishna and the Radha. Okay, so it is rejoicing with the people. It is rejoicing with the gods. The concept of rejoicing with the gods, even you see in the Manipuri Ras Lila, this bringing out of Krishna and Radha is like bringing out of the spirit of Lai in the Lai Harawa. At the beginning of Lai Harawa every day, there is Lai Bolatava. Lai Bolatava means calling out the spirit of Lai. Here in Lai Harawa, it is the spirit that's there in the middle of the performance, rejoicing, playing, dancing, celebrating with the people. Whereas in the Ras Lila of Manipur, it is the idol is brought out. Okay, Lai means God. Okay, so you see the concept of Lai Harau, the indigenous concept is there. After we convert into Hindu, after we convert into Vaishnavism, and do that is the uniqueness of the Manipuri Ras Lila. The uniqueness of the Manipuri Ras Lila is bringing out the Krishna and Radha idols from the temples and dancing with the gopis and Krishnas and Radha. So the indigenous knowledge system is still intact. Now, if you see in another way, there are eight divisions of Astaka or time in Govindaji. In Govindaji, you will see the bell, the ringing of the bell is divided into 8. Okay, now what is this 8? The concept of time. And interestingly, in Manipuri Ras Lila, King Chandrakirti, okay, the grandson of King Vegesandra, King Chandrakirti introduces 64 rasas. 64 rasas. Now, if you see the rasas, what rasas for the Natya Sastra, we have 8 rasas in Natya Sastras, and Abhinava Gupta's added 1 more rasa, and today we have 9 rasas in Indian aesthetics theory. Whereas King Chandrakirti introduced 64 rasas, And these 64 rasas, when the word rasa has come to Manipur, but the understanding of rasa is different from the Indian Natya Shastra tradition. This is very interesting. And why 64? 64 is connected with the concept of time, of Manipuri, we take the indigenous concept of time, because we divided the day into 64 pung. Today we call it hour as pung, but hour and pung are two equivalent terms. We divided, in earlier our knowledge of system is we divided the day into 64 pung. Okay, so 64 pung, the concept of time, to memorize this concept of time, we have 64 rasa. In Lai Harauba, when you build up the body, in Lai Harauba is all about, it's all about civilizations. Lai Harauba, you will have the relations of building. There is a sex education union of gods and goddesses, and also symbolically union of male and females, and then bearing child, and the child in the fetus, building up the body of the child in the fetus. Okay, in Lai Harauba. So in Lai Harauba, you will see that there are 64 hand gestures in the Laibung Chongba, in the circular dance called Laibung Chongba. The Amaibi, the priestess will perform 64 hand gestures to complete the formations of baby. So this 64 is very significant time. Okay, and then in the dance of the Manipuri dance is always in this symbol of 8. Okay, symbol of 8 structure, or it can be horizontal, it can be vertical. Okay, so whole Ras Leela, the chins moves like this, the 8, So this is also it's what we call Pafal, the serpentine drive, the serpentine movement, Okay, the Pakhangba, what we call it Pakhangba, the serpentine movement. So even in the Ras Leela, you will see that all these movements, all these belief systems, all this indigenous knowledge are keep intact, and in a way we can say that it's an amalgamation of Vaishnavisms and our own indigenous knowledge system. Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm not being able to connect WhatsApp with my laptop also.
Dr. Roshu, there's another question in the meantime. If possible, could you throw some
Yes.
light on the tribal dance forms as well?
If I can add to that, why such a big difference between the tribal and the Mai Tai dances?
Just give.
Any more questions from anyone? Yeah.
See, if you see the tribal dances, the movement of the hill tribes would be like movement of climbing the hills. Okay, climbing hills, and that their movement is always in the climbing motions. Whereas the plain, it is the serpentine movement. It is the meandering of snakes and like that. Whereas the hill tribes, okay, you'll see that it's in the this kind of motions. So the landscape now, it's also here, the relationship with the landscape, the relation with their own landscape is coming into you find expressions of their body, of their body in relation to their landscape.
Okay. Any other questions?
So many tribal dances all jumping kind of movement, jumping kind of movement.
Yeah, Imran, you had a question.
Most of the people.
Yeah, sir, I have a question from my side. Sir, from your previous related topics and all, I have list down a question. One question that is, you said that, sir, the life of the hills and their culture and tradition is related to the agriculture practice they are having from their previous century decades and all. So what if I change the agriculture system of the hills? Will it affect their tradition as well?
Let me explain to you, go a little further. What Imran is doing is now heading a project called the sloping agriculture land technique. So this is a new technique by which the farmers will be taught what is deemed to be a more environmentally friendly form of agriculture, in which they will remain in one place and they will not burn the forest, every second or third year, and how they will practice a method of farming which in fact enriches the soil and allows them to be in one place. So this is radically different from what it is there in the hills where this jhum cultivation is being practiced. So Imran is the head of this change-making, endeavor that we are doing. So his question is whether that's going to impact, the local culture. Am I right, Imran?
That's right, sir. That's right, sir.
I'll come up with a concept called, means this change is inevitable. We keep on changing. Okay, and I'll come up with a concept called orature. Okay, orature. It's introduced by an African playwright, Kenyan playwright, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And orature, he says, it's very interesting in understanding our indigenous systems. Okay, when he say orature, he creates this term, and before he creates this term, he was critiquing this idea of oral literature. Okay, oral literature and written literature. He is saying that this oral literature and the division of oral literature and written literature by the Western anthropologists, okay, by the Western anthropologists, by the Western colonizers, is creating a binary that the written culture, the people with the written culture is in the higher, and they are creating a binary of high and low. Whereas or people who do not have a written culture is, in a lower strata. So this binary, he says that by oral literature, when you study only oral literature, you are studying only the lyrics, the written, the words and all. But when you say oral literature, you are dismissing, you are neglecting many performative elements there. Okay, performative elements in the sense of the dance, the movement, the songs, okay, the tune, the musics, okay, and the practice which is very much connected to the environment. Okay, so he's saying that orature will develop in its own. Orature will develop with the change of the landscape. Orature, from orature today we have sculpture. From orature we have science. our folk stories are now, made animated, and then it is transformed into videos, and you will see many of the folk tales animated and can be watched on YouTube. Okay. Now, what he is saying is that the form may change with the change of the time, with the change of our materialistic of view. But the important thing is to sustain our knowledge. Okay, sustains our knowledge. So when you change the agricultural format, the landscape, what you're trying to say, but the main thing is to sustain our core value and our core knowledge systems. If we are able to sustain that core knowledge systems, which is met with inbuilt in such a way that there is an understanding of the community, there is an understanding of goodwill of the community, then that change is not a problem.
Okay, the next question is from Amisha. She says that any insights on what role, if at all, art and literature has played in the intertribal conflicts or the colonial resistance in the Northeast? And to this, I just want to add along the same lines, in Sunbird, we have this thing called deepen your roots and broaden your vision, which you have seen in my little video, which means that we encourage all our communities. We encourage all our communities to celebrate their culture, their arts, their religion, whatever. But sometimes this could be a double-edged weapon, and it is being used by many as a double-edged weapon, where it is actually causing friction, I think leading to hyper-nationalism. So what this, I think Amisha's question is very relevant. So what is the role that art and literature may have been played in conflict?
Yeah. So I have no example for that, but yes, there are songs created during the World War. Okay, the first gramophone song in Manipur created during the World War. Okay, was a song called Jati Kaubi Sakinbi Layang Latagi Laynushi, and it's describing about the flower called Jati, but Jati is also can be translated as community, human being. Okay, so the song express that do not forget your community, do not forget your neighbors, other flowers. Okay, the other flowers. Okay, at this time of war, at this time of challenges, do not forget that we have to help each other, kind of expressions. And that song during the World War, this Japan bombing and all, was recorded during that time, at that very tumultuous time. So I think in a way that song has given a spirit to the people. Okay, to come out of that fear, psychosis, and all. So there may be many other examples. Okay, I remember this example, that art, songs, they have function in many good ways during the time of war, during the time of fun. And at the same time, there are songs which disturb the equilibrium as well.
Thank you. Any more questions from anybody? Doctor, any more points from your side, doctor?
Yeah, I just wanted to share some videos and sorry, some pictures, but today there is a connection problem here because of the, you know, I've been trying to open file.
Were you able to send them to Sonal? No.
No, I've been trying, but I've not been able to open the WhatsApp on my laptop. The Gmail also.
Right. So this famous painting, this is the next question, you know, this very, very famous painting where you see everybody at the Thoibi on a horse received by a prince. Could you just share this story for all of us? It's an iconic story of the Mai Tais.
The Khamba Thoibi.
Yeah, the prince who's receiving the lady on the horse, that story in Manipuri folklore, all the paintings that you find at the RKCS Art Museum.
Yes.
Could you tell us about that story?
This is, yeah, that painting is the boy, the young man is Khamba, and the girl on the horse is Thoibi. So Khamba, it's a love story of Khamba and Thoibi. It's very much like a love story of Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, where Thoibi belongs to the aristocrat, and the, you know, fishermen's working class and some and very strong men. Okay, so it's a love story of Khamba and Thoibi, where there's Nongban, another aristocrat, loves Thoibi, and there is a conflict between them. There are lots of play and then games and trying to win the heart of Thoibi. So finally, at the end, what happened is that Khamba, Khamba did a very kind of mocking Thoibi. Okay, Khamba was mocking Thoibi, and then in a game, because of misunderstanding, Thoibi killed Khamba, and finally Thoibi came to know that it was Khamba, then suicide. So it's a very basic love story.
So thank you, doctor. If you're unable to play the videos, it's okay. Maybe you had a technical glitch. I'll request any questions, any more questions from anybody? Okay. Sonal, can I request you? Yeah.
Hi, Oja. Hello, Usham, Rojio, Oja. I live in a community of Inpui Nagas. Mine is not a question, actually. It's just a thought that occurs to me. Last year when I came here, I saw that they also wear kajenglai when they do their traditional dance. And so far, I was under the impression that
which community?
Inpui Naga community. And they wear the kajenglai, which is a very significant part of Khamba Thoibi dance. And it was supposedly the costume of brides also back in the days before we started wearing the potloi. So I'm just wondering how Inpui Naga also have that in their traditional dance. Could you share how that came into being here?
Yes, I would say that there are many things, like for example, not only Inpui Naga, but Huipum Naga and many other Nagas who lives nearby this Moirang hill range, okay, Tangzing hill range, okay. They share many these things, many culture. They share many other things. Okay, so let me read out a poetry. I can read out this poetry, which you will be interesting. It's I wrote an article on Loktak and Moirang. I'll read out the poetry. This is one. Yes, I'll read out this poetry, and this is a song sung by the Pena singer, the Pena Moirang. Okay, and this is a song sung in the Moirang Kambel. Moirang Kambel also talks about this couple to be Moirang Kambel also. Couple to be love story is a chapter in Moirang Kambel. Okay. And see the visuals of the traditional poets here. Nature, I translated this from the William Angan's collection. Nature and all living beings are coming. Okay, and this is when Thoibi was dancing. There is a description. This description is when Thoibi was dancing at the Tangjing Lai Harawa. Okay, at the Tangjing Lai Harawa, when Thoibi was dancing, this description was given. Nature and all living beings are coming. Nature and all living beings are coming to the ritual festivals to see Thoibi dance. Life and nature bathing in love and beauty, and all the life and nature bathing in love and beauty. All the water gods and goddesses are in ecstasy, congregating at the ritual place to see Thoibi's dance. The 363 Monglais are also assembled. The Loktak Lake herself is thrilled. All the 9 water bodies of the lake are giving out vibration of waves. All the fishes of Loktak Lake are assembled in processions, moving towards the abode of Tangjing, where Tadoi is dancing. All the birds are also happy, flying in flocks and seeing Thoibi dance. They are singing songs of love and beauty. All the 9 markets of Moirang Kingdom are deserted. The women of Moirang markets are leaving their goods, rushing on to Tangjing Temple to see Thoibi dance. Cattle of all kinds are also coming, lowing happily. They are moving towards Tangjing Temple. All the gods of sky have come out of their abode to see Kamba and Thoibi dance. The sound of drums and music are making heaven and earth tremble. Blue hills far and near are bending forward to see nearer. Trees, bamboos, and creepers are bowing down towards Tangjing. The winds from all the directions are assembled in a torrent, blowing lustily over the Tangjing Temple. They are also sweeping over the Loktak Lake, breaking her waves into foams. The sun, the moon, and the stars in unison are lighting the ritual palace. Love, passion, sorrow, fear, happiness, weakness, strength, creation, dissolution, all these emotions have been made ingredient base of the dance. Man and gods are in rupture. Now listen to this. Anal, Nampau, Korbung, Lamgang, Chiru, Kabui, even Kabo, all are singing and dancing, rotating and revolving in the circular motions of dance, displaying community dance form and music. Young boys and girls are exchanging queries and responses in songs. So many examples, that you see when Kambat will be dancing. Other communities are also dancing in celebrations. Not only communities, Ana, Nampau, Korung, Lungang, Chiru, Kawi, Kabo. This is there in the old song. All these hill tribes were dancing, not only the human beings. Okay, so in this song, the description is all the natures are dancing. So there is a connection with the nature. The connection with the nature. Okay, nature and all living beings are coming to dance. Okay, so this poetry is this song, I would say this song is very powerful, sung by the Pena Balladeers of Moirang Lai Harawa. So there is, what I'm trying to point out is that there is a shared culture. There has to be a shared culture, we cannot deny that. Now, all these identity assertions and all, it's a different political play, but culturally there is a shared culture, and we have to, for this project or peace through education, it's important to look into this shared culture. That's my message of today's talk. And if you have any questions, please. So living beings in water, here you see living beings in water, land and sky, they celebrate beauty, through dance together. So here you see that landscapes have energy and agency. Landscape has energy. Okay, and then we recognize, our community recognize the energy of the landscape. That landscape are not simply a natural or physical environment, okay, which are taken for granted as backdrop of hills, rivers, and valleys, or even a way of seeing or representation seen in landscape paintings and all. But landscape for us has a historical process of interactions between people and environment, okay, and then in which we both are shaped together. Okay, so landscapes have agency, landscapes have potency, landscapes have energy. This is there in our belief systems. So living and coping with the environment, with the landscape, is one of the important, one of the important elements in indigenous knowledge system. For every community, that is the common core values for every community, which I believe.
Thank you, Dr. Usham. There's just one last question. If you could just throw some light on the meaning of the chandan that is put on the forehead by the Maithei community. So what does it mean, and what are the roots of that?
It symbolize, chandan is symbolize the balance of, first is symbolize purity. Okay, it's a symbol of purity, and purity in the sense of purifying body and mind, purifying body and soul. So Maithei believes that and if you go back to the martial art traditions again, the Thang Ta, Maithei believes that there is breathing. Okay, it is the body and mind. The body and minds are alive when through the breathing. Okay, through the breathing, And they also believe that this chandan on the nose, okay, on the nose this is one of the nose is one of the important part of breathing. Okay, therefore the chandan is put on the nose. That is one explanation I heard from one of my grandfather. So it's not in the written kind of thing, but it is the life, okay, life energy, what we call ting in Manipur, in Manipuri, life energy, or say in Chinese tradition they have a word called chi, the life energy. Okay, the life energy is the connection between body and mind is the breathing. Okay, so it has connection with this concept also, and mainly it symbolizes purity of body and soul and balancing of body and soul.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usham. If there are no more questions, we would like to close the session and extend our gratitude to Dr. Usham.
Yeah, I wanted to share a picture, but I will speak. I'll tell the story of these pictures. Okay, these
Please go ahead, sir.
pictures I wanted to share around, yeah, 5 or 10 pictures. Where in these pictures you will see that one is a picture of a Manka, a popular folk singer, Manipuri folk singer, and I want to ask to the audience and discuss about this. And I want to ask to the people from Manipur here, the audience from Manipur, that why Manka, as an artistic figure, made certain aesthetic choice to convey something about who she is, and Manka's hairstyle, dress, and then embellishments and all, and discuss about the aesthetics of, and then I also have pictures of, a Lukoi, okay, and I also have pictures of two processions of Luhongba and processions of Mairapaibi, and also tell about the difference of their aesthetic things. And the most important that I want to share is the pictures, some 8 or 9 pictures of, Phayeng Lai Harawa. In Phayeng Lai Harawa, what happens is that they make Lai, this god idols, out of bamboo. The bamboo paya, with the bamboo paya, they make a skeleton of a body, and then they stuff inside clothes, and then they make they cover it white clothes, and then make a lady, okay, like a doll, and then that doll, one male doll and one female doll, and that, after just completing the making of these dolls of Lai, they started worshiping. Okay, they started worshiping. The community changed that doll into a gods and goddesses immediately. And then people started crying, and people started, connecting with them. And then I was doing my, field work, and then I was also surprised. Okay, this is something, they connected immediately. And I also have certain emotions on my body, certain reactions on my body. Then I also started bowing down and praying. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is here is that with showing these pictures, how, the belief systems, the community belief systems, also part the art and just art of making that doll, and then suddenly it becomes, their gods and goddesses. Okay, so the kind of social drama, which is very much connected with their belief systems. Okay, which is something which we cannot explain. we cannot explain with our modern theory. Okay, something very, very close to the community. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with these pictures.
Dr. Usham, I will request you to anyway share the pictures with me at a later point whenever you have better connectivity, and perhaps attach a small little note so I can share it across with the team so they can go through it.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usham. On behalf of Sunbird, I would like to extend my gratitude for you to take time off and come and talk to our team. This has been a very interesting session, and a lot of things about the place we live in that we did not know of. We've come to know of them through this session. There have been a lot of takeaways, I'm sure, for most of the team members. I'd just like to share, two things that you mentioned which have struck a very deep chord with me. One, when you mentioned that change is inevitable, and that even though practices may change, one needs to hold on to the values of sustainability that are there in the practices of any indigenous population. And the second thing that you mentioned about a shared culture, the fact that there may be a lot of differences, but at the heart of it, there will be a lot of similarities if we actually get down to finding them. I think these two principles are also the core of what the entire team is trying to do over here at Sunbird, with the diversity that we have just within our own team and the places we work in and the beneficiaries we have. So, on that note, thank you so much um, for
Thank you
just
very
being
much.
here.
I'm so sorry because, yeah, I'm so sorry because my laptop charger was not working for the last 2-3 days, and I've ordered online and I've not received, and I have to borrow my colleague's laptop, and I'm not used to it. So I wanted to share some videos and pictures which would have made this session very lively. I'm sorry that I could not.
No problem.
Next time, yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you so much. And thank you, team, for putting up such interesting questions for all of us. It always helps to learn more when you bring out the questions that you have. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
I will request the team members to just stay
Thank you, sir.
behind.
Yeah.
I will request